Hi everybody, Bentley Compost Guy, Christy here. I am here with my Uber Natural bin. Some of you may be familiar with this. I've written about it on the blog, but this is the first video that I've recorded for this system. I just wanted to give you a little bit of a tour of it just to kind of show you what's been going on. Just as a bit of backstory, this is a system that was started with some material that I took from a backyard composter. By the time I excavated it, probably last fall, early last fall, I guess 2020, the material didn't look like much other than a rich compost, really. There was the odd worm here and there, but it was really, really dark, earthy stuff. Actually not what I was expecting to find. I had a pretty thriving population of composting worms in there with bedding and all the rest of it. But by the time I got to it, it looked like it was pretty much processed through to completion. But I know that these materials can be a bit misleading at times, so I thought, why not just toss it in a bin and kind of add some stuff to it and see what happened. And a lot has happened since then. This is March, towards the end of March 2021, and it's been quite a few months since I started up the system. Early on, really all I did, it was just a bit of dark material down on the bottom of this bin. And every so often, I would add something like a apple core or banana peel. I really didn't do a whole lot with it. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it. That kind of got some of the worm activity happening a bit more. I started seeing some other organisms, the isopods, the odd millipede here and there. And I kind of got more and more interested in seeing if I could develop a bit more of a natural ecosystem. By this point, I have added a lot of materials and a lot of really, really rich carbon materials. And the ecosystem that's developed is unlike any indoor worm bin that I've had before. Very, very rich and diverse, a lot of different organisms, and just some really interesting things going on. I just want to kind of show you real quick. You see this is a land snail, and I have quite a few of them in the bin, which is very unusual. I don't normally have snails in my worm bins. So that's one thing right off the bat. If you look down at this material, you can see a lot of carbon-rich materials, things like leaves and old brown paper, newsprint, and cardboard in there. But if you had seen just how loaded this system had been with these types of materials, I think you'd be amazed at how well they're being processed. And a big part of why they're being processed so well is just how well the millipedes and isopods in particular are doing in this system. And I just want to, right there is a millipede, and these are the millipedes. Oxidus, I believe, is the genus name. I think they're called greenhouse millipedes, and they can be a bit of a pain for people who do have greenhouses. You can get large numbers of them congregating in greenhouses, so they can be, I guess, a bit of a pest organism. But it's been really interesting just kind of seeing what they've been doing in this bin. Down there you see some roly-poly isopods. There's probably at least 3 or 4 different types of isopods in here. You can see a fast-moving, flatter isopod, just kind of rolling around. More of the millipedes. And there was a soil centipede that just kind of moved away. Just going to see lots and lots of different organisms. Normally, I wouldn't be seeing anything like this in one of my typical worm bins. These other creatures, it's not uncommon to find them, but just in this sort of abundance. Okay, here's an interesting one. I just put in some watermelon rind yesterday, And you can see it's just literally covered with these millipedes. I do want to kind of see if we can find some worms. You can see that as I kind of start to move away material, you see all kinds of critters moving around. But as I get closer, lots of baby isopods. You can start to see that rich, dark stuff. So the further down I get, the more we start to see the worms. I have to kind of reach in a bit here. You can see some of them. You can see this really, really rich, dark, earthy, beautiful stuff further down, and you can probably pretty much guarantee that that's some pretty fantastic compost. And what's funny is it's not like this crazy productive worm bin, but I think that's what kind of makes it extra cool. All these different creatures are working together in harmony. I'm seeing lots of cocoons in there, lots of springtails, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is some of the nicest compost, I won't call it vermicompost, but compost anyway, that I've ever produced in one of these sorts of bins. So I'm really interested to see what happens. I've actually been creating some separate bins for isopods and millipedes and springtails. I'm just kind of curious to see if I can, grow thriving populations of them and basically process waste on their own. So far, it looks like they do much better in an ecosystem like this than they do on their own, but it is also very early on. I've only just set up those other bins, so we'll kind of see what happens over the next couple months. But all in all, very interesting, and yeah, hope you found this interesting as well. I'll see about providing some updates a little bit later on.